Welcome to this Accelerator Showcase. My name's Glen Hellman. I'm DC's Mr. Cranky, and I invite anybody who doesn't like my sharp criticism, tweet me, trash me in tweets, do whatever you want. Come to my blog, tell me I'm a bum, because I am. And we're going to start right now going through the list. What we're going to do is I'll have each Accelerator representative introduce themselves really quickly with 2 sentences, what makes them different, and then they'll go right into their pitches. So we're going to start right away with Jonathan Perrelli.
Yeah.
Just a quickie.
Just a quick, who are you and what's your background? 30
Hi,
seconds.
Jonathan Perrelli, 5-time entrepreneur, founding partner of the 4-to-5 VC, also the Fort. We're an accelerator, we're a fund. We are very excited to be here in DC because DC is like, there's a revolution happening, and you can tell by DCWEEK, growing every year. So we're just psyched to be here, and thank you for the time.
Okay, we'll just start with your pitch, Jonathan. Yeah, you're going to go pitch, then we'll go
Let's
panel.
do it. So I mentioned our fund, Startup Land. I have how many minutes?
6.
Okay. All right, so how to maximize the innovation revolution. These are just tips for entrepreneurs. The goal of this presentation is to share anything, something that you walk away with and say, okay, I learned something from the bald dude that was up there with the cranky dude. That's me. We have 3 brands. We're a little brand confused, but we like it. DI is our event, the Fort is our accelerator, and Fortify is the umbrella. Most important thing in any business and in life is to do what you're best at and love what you do. So if you hate your job, quit. If you don't like the person you're dating, leave them. If you don't like the code in your platform, code in something else. But enjoy what you do because it won't seem like work. Steve Jobs. Let's see. Why is it so hard for startups to succeed? Uh-oh. We're missing something. Bad font. It's supposed to be gears, like a crank, gear shift. Why is it so hard? Because everything has to be perfect. Sales and marketing, customer service, engineering, operations, legal, HR, finance, fundraising, recruiting. Everything has to work seamlessly. That's why it's so cool when an O-Power, a Living Social, a Hello Wallet, when they grow to hundreds of employees, when they raise money and have revenue and customers. It's all good.
Baby, I got you.
It's all good. Next slide.
Just stall, I got this.
So
30 seconds on the clock.
So the reason it's really hard is you have a lot of obstacles thrown your way. One of them is investors. Investors are a pain in the ass. If you don't need money from investors, do not take their money, okay? Use your own money, use credit cards, go to friends and family, win grants, win pitch contest cash. But it is a challenge. It is a major challenge for a startup to succeed. So the objective should be to surround yourselves with people that can help those gears that you can't see crank, okay? If any cog in the wheel of any one of those gears does not work, your startup does not work. One thing I love about Don Berger at Social Tables is he fires people really fast. Like Don is lean. Don hires and everyone interviews, but Don fires just as fast as he hires. Where to start in Startup Land? Lots of places. Just talk to people. Events are one of the biggest and most important parts of the ecosystem. Meet people here. Even if they're cranky as hell, talk to them. Ask them questions. See what they think about what you're doing. How am I on time? Lean. Lean is not just a word anymore, one that I aspire to personally, physically. It is also a methodology. It is a movement. Okay, if you haven't read Eric Ries's book, Lean Startup, read it. Understand that before you do anything with code or with a team, validate it. Go talk to people on the street and ask them, if I had this mock-up thing, would you press this button and buy this thing? Okay? Talk to people and ask them if they would use your technology. Validate it. Then start coding. There's a lot more to Lean than that. Also prototype it. If anyone would use it, what would they use it for? The point is to validate and constantly validate, invalidate, and move your technology forward. So how many people have an idea they're thinking about creating a startup with? Raise your hands proudly. Let's see. Okay, how many, keep your hands up if you're using Lean methodology. Okay, good, the rest of you should be. Startup land is a journey. It's a lot of destinations, okay? Just because you're crunched, or you're in the Capitol, or you're in the Post, doesn't mean squat. It's awesome for your company, and keep getting press. But don't let it go to your head, okay? Let it get to your wallet. Let it get to your bank account. Let it help you hire more great people, have great partners. But it's a journey with a lot of destinations. Ideal founding team, thanks to Paul Singh, who's ingrained this in most of our heads. Hacker, hustler, designer. And then we love seeing companies that have lots and lots of salespeople or more hackers. Okay, you shouldn't have a bunch of marketing people and HR people before you need them. You'll know when you need them. It's when everybody's pissed that they have to spend too much time in the hiring process. Okay, but that's an ideal founding crew. I'm really cruising through this. How does equity slice? It never slices properly, ever. So just do it. A lot of people ask, like, hey, we have 3 founders. Should we have a third each? No, you shouldn't. One of you should be writing a check, and you probably should, or maybe you should because you're all equal, but you should vest it so that if one of you leaves, you don't own it and screw the company and the others. But I think that if someone's writing a check, they should probably have a little bit of a bigger piece and they should buy their stock. That's just a thought. Probably have a lot of thoughts on this, but it's never right. Who and where are the investors? Okay, there are bad angels. There are bad angels. These are people that like made a lot of money and they want to control your company. You don't have to like listen long to hear who those people are, but if someone wants to control your company because they did a really great job controlling a company in another industry and they think they should be your chairman, think twice. Find angels that will be mentors, that will be active, that will help you. Passive angels are great too, as long as you have mentors. And use AngelList and technologies like that to find people. VCs are for later, usually. If you're early, you haven't raised any money, and you need like 250, don't try to court VCs just yet. You'll know the time, and the time is after you've got traction, you've already got some investors, you've already got a reputation and a brand. That's usually the best time. Sorry, I'm going really fast. When you have cash, don't treat it like they did in the dot-com days. Like, treat it like it's a precious commodity, because it is. Because the skies get gray, and bad things happen unexpectedly in markets. So you just don't know when people will stop writing checks like they did after the 2008 financial crisis. So if you have cash, use it sparingly. Don't take it if you don't need it. But Bill Campbell, a famous Valley investor, entrepreneur, said this once, and I heard it live. When someone offers you the money, you take the effing money, okay? Just take the money because you know you need it. The world is not a scary place. I don't know where this slide is going. Things spread by word of mouth. Like, embrace Twitter. The next slide's better, actually, yeah. Twitter's for conversations. I didn't used to use it. Like a year ago, I started using it again, and I was like, wow, I'm meeting people that I'm like hugging at events because we've tweeted at each other and I've gotten to know their lives and who they are. Use Twitter. It's your friend. It's a great free resource to get to know people. Facebook is for congratulating yourself. One suggestion I have is don't congratulate yourself. Ask a friend to congratulate you. And you know, if you like yourself too much on Facebook, I think people might not like you as much. So just a tip. And LinkedIn is a really great tool. If you're not using it, you're crazy. Like, LinkedIn is a great way to get to anyone because everyone in this room is connected to everyone else in this room through LinkedIn. So make sure you're using these tools and use them wisely. Blah, blah, blah. That one's not that important. This is a good one. So meetups are really good. Who goes to meetups in DC? Okay, they're awesome, right? Regardless of what they are, you meet people that are focused, whether it's Ruby or fundraising or design. Well, I found something interesting over the last year. I've been attending meetups in other cities, and it is so smart and cheap to drive to Philly, and attend meetups, travel to both coasts, and build relationships through social. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Take a seat. So next up, Michael Goldstein, Endeavor. Michael. All right, how are you? Good time we're here now.
All right.
You ready?
Yep.
Go.
So thanks everybody for coming. It's amazing to see an event like this big in DC. I've been a startup entrepreneur in Washington, in DC proper, for a while, and this is the most exciting I think it's ever been. I started my first company here in 1996 or 7, and have done 5 startups since then. And the collaboration, the efforts of people like iStrategy Labs and Foster Lee and Elana at Dingman and Jonathan, and I could go around the room and name 20 people that have made DC what it is right now. And it's not like other cities. DC is really become an impressive place to be a startup, and it's getting national recognition. And especially the city of Washington and the mayor. The deputy mayor said last night that the cooperation when he came into office a year or two ago was non-existent with the startup community, and today it's thriving. So this is the best it's been, and there's so many resources to take advantage of that I really I wish when I had started my first business that it was like it is now. So take advantage of them. So I'm going to tell you about myself and Endeavor DC and what we do. We're a startup accelerator. We focus on consumer internet startups or consumer-facing startups more generally. So that's the reason we launched this, is because that's the space that we know. We know how to grow and get traction for and get funding for consumer-facing startups. All of my businesses have been consumer-facing, from selling cinder blocks at Boston University when I was an undergrad to most recently an e-commerce company that sold to XL Marketing. It's what we know. I brought in 2 other partners who also know the space equally as well. One guy, David Steinberg, who has taken a company public in the consumer space, and he's in New York, and another guy on the West Coast, Alan Morgan, who is a venture capitalist out there. I have found, I think as Jonathan kind of alluded to, that having the relationships in other cities outside of DC is incredibly helpful for funding. My last business, we had West Coast angel investors, and the ability to network out there, to tap into relationships there, really makes a huge, huge difference. So what do? We talk to a ton of companies that are in the consumer-facing space. We get to know them, we brainstorm with them, we figure out what the model is, and we figure out if there's a fit with our resources to help them get the traction and funding they need. So it starts out with a phone call, then it leads to hopefully a whiteboarding session, and we should both leave that whiteboarding session feeling like this is either really awesome or not a good fit. And hopefully it's really awesome. We like to understand the businesses early on, get a sense of the lay of the land, and figure out how we can help specifically. And that can be through strategy, it can be through introductions, it can be through putting together all of the pieces that the company needs in order to get traction and funding. I mean, everything we do is about creating value for the startups we work with. So we currently are working with a group of startups that have gone on, some of them to raise more funding. Others are just coming online right now to raise funding. And the ecosystem, the piece that we really see is missing. We make investor introductions, we do all of those things, but the piece that we see that really is missing, we're actually putting together an event, which we're announcing today at this event, to address that piece. And so in March, we're going to be doing an event called Switch Pitch, where large companies in the DC area, startups will love this because you guys aren't the ones doing the pitching, you guys are in the audience. Large companies, Discovery's committed, I'm going to hit up Bud at AOL, wherever he is, and there's a bunch of big companies that are going to come in and tell the needs that they have, sort of what we call the shovel-ready projects, that they have funding for, that they have budgeted, and startups in the room will get to take advantage of those projects. So it's going to be a pretty cool event. I think it's ultimately fulfilling what I'm seeing is missing, which is the disconnect between startups and big companies. There's an event today and tomorrow, Reboot America, which is sort of the beginning of connecting startups with broader, bigger companies in DC. This will be much more granular. This will be where big companies tell projects that they have, and then we actually facilitate, it's sort of like speed dating combined with networking, the relationship. So that's going to be in mid-March. It's going to be at Georgetown University, and we're really excited about sort of bridging the gap between startups and big companies in DC. So would love to, if you have a consumer-facing startup talk with you, please look me up on LinkedIn or Facebook and get in touch with me. Thanks.
Good job. Under the time. Quick announcement.
Hey, there's plenty of seats on this side of the room, and there are actually a couple seats up against the wall that need to be folded out, so please grab those if you're looking to rest your feet.
Okay, so who's here from Accelerprise? Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do. I know that you're a limited, not one of the Accelerprise guys are out on the West Coast.
That's right. That's right.
Pitch meeting.
That's right. So I'm Paul Mandell. I am a terrible fit for DCWEEK. I'm not sure how I ended up here with all these sort of tech-minded folks. So I'm a limited partner with Accelerprise.
Sorry.
My part, geez, I guess as soon as I said that, they cut me short. The hook. So first of all, I started out as an attorney. So I went to law school. I practiced law for a number of years. And so I have two strikes against me when it comes to tech. I am a serial entrepreneur, I guess. Now I'm on my second company. Both companies have been in the service industry. So I, unlike probably most of you, have not focused on the software space. Rather, I've sort of gone after simpler ideas and work to execute a plan to scale a business in that way. So I also bootstrapped my companies. So in some respects, it's very different. Although I finally did go through a Series A round recently. So on my own, which was interesting. So. Now, that being said, I think that sort of leads into what makes Accelerprise somewhat interesting, which is that Accelerprise, what I think, I've been involved with and I'm familiar with a number of different accelerators in DC and outside of DC. And I think for those of you who are interested in exploring work with an accelerator, one of the unique things about Accelerprise is that the entity has done a really nice job of bringing together people with all kinds of different perspectives, really to create a useful, powerful, valuable ecosystem for the companies that come. And so let me tell you about kind of how Accelerprise works. Basically, of the 340 or so accelerators or incubators out there that we're familiar with, I think there are only two that focus exclusively on enterprise software startups. And so Accelerprise is one of them. And so, that necessarily weeds out lots of folks who are, focused on other things, but there's a very square focus on enterprise technology. And the Accelerprise was started by Sean Glass, who's the general partner. He co-founded Hire One, which went public in the summer of 2010. He's very well connected, very smart, really interesting guy. But he basically put together this concept, very focused on enterprise software. And what really appealed to me about the concept was that it was had a very structured program for the companies that participate. And so, like a lot of other accelerators out there are elements that are woven into the program that are designed to help companies, but it's very structured. So the way it works is basically, every 4 months there's a new class of companies that come. And Accelerprise invests, I think we give $30,000 for a 5% stake out of the gate. And then the companies come into the space in DC. It's a very cool space. It's, Silicon Valley-esque. All the companies are kind of together in a, smallish space. There's enough room to get your work done, but it's cozy. And essentially, for the next 4 months, the companies have, are very focused on really the sales, getting this whatever software they have out into the market. And so Accelerprise is not really focused on contributing to the development of the code. or that kind of thing, but really focused on getting the product out to the market. And so Accelerprise has brought together 100+ mentors with all kinds of different expertise that they use to, to help the companies figure out, if their products are on the right track, if the software makes sense. There are some great partnerships with Microsoft and the Washington Post and other companies that we use to actually introduce the companies to and have potential customers give feedback on the products. And then woven into the process is a weekly structure that includes group dinners, I think on Wednesday nights. There are learning sessions that are woven in. And then toward the end of the 4-month period, there are these demo days. It's a 4-day experience whereby we go out to different places in the country and have the companies actually interact with VCs and angels and others who can potentially fund the company. So there's a lot of hand holding. It's for first-time entrepreneurs, it's a very good fit. So it's a very nice ecosystem and a really good group. Happy to be a part.
So next up is Springboard. Okay. You want to sit up there?
Okay.
Want me to hold your mic?
Do you have the clicker? Anyone have the clicker? Oh, you're fine. Okay, how many of you are women entrepreneurs in this room? Raise your hand. How many of you are men entrepreneurs with a woman on your team? Raise your hand. How many of you are aspiring women entrepreneurs? Raise your hand. How many of you know a woman entrepreneur? Okay, did I get everyone? I just want to make sure I'm talking to my target audience. If not, I'm going to go home, okay? All right, so I am Katie. I'm with Springboard Enterprises. I'm the manager of programming. Some of you may know Joshua Henderson, Amy Melman. They've been bouncing around the city for a few years. Also, I think I have a team member here, Johniki. Are you around? She's back here, so after the show, we'll chat with you if you have any questions for us. How do I use this thing? Okay, good. So we've been around for about 12 years. We are a nonprofit organization that runs a series of programs. Our signature program is an accelerator program. It's about 6 months long. We screen, coach, and showcase and support women-led businesses. Have you all heard the Dow Jones study that talks about women leading venture-backed businesses and the success rate? So I'm not going to get into details, but basically they've proven that there's a greater chance of a company going public, operating profitably, being sold for more money if there are founders, board members, executives, directors that are women in these venture-backed companies. So we think that's fantastic, and we also think that it validates what we've been doing for the last 12 years. So we're always talking about track records when we talk about entrepreneurs, and we have a track record of our own, and these are some of our stats up here. So of the 509 companies that have gone through our program, but they've raised about $5.6 billion, and there's supposed to be a B up there, so I think there's a font thing, but that's $1 billion in financing. 83% of our companies have been funded. There have been 10 IPOs in the past 12 years, and 82% of those companies are still in operation today, so we're very, very proud of that. We like to say that our entrepreneurs can't click through there we go. That our entrepreneurs have been there, run that, and here are a few of our success stories. So Zipcar is one of our portfolio companies. iRobot, which is the Roomba vacuum cleaner, and also now does all kinds of military robots and things like that. Constant Contact, many of you may use that in your companies now, and then there are several others. Now I'm gonna turn my page. So let's talk about what we do. We are an accelerator program, and this is the outline of our accelerator. It is very similar structurally to a lot of the accelerators that are here, that you know about, that are all over the country. We start out with an application process. We do 2 rounds of screening. Then we do interview process. We pick companies. We do in-person boot camp, educational workshop, where we bring those companies together and talk about how to raise money and how to speak investor. and other various things. Then we do a coaching process, move on to coaching calls and meetings with mentors and advisors. You guys know the drill. Then we do some checkpoints where we walk through with our companies and see kind of where they are and what they need help with. Then we have a presentation session where hopefully these companies can present before a crowd of investors and raise some money. And then meetings, and then they're a part of the Springboard Network for life. I'm going to click it again. There we go. So we always talk about differentiators. Every entrepreneur knows you have to have a differentiator. So how are we different? Well, every accelerator has a sweet spot, and ours are as follows. We're entrepreneur focused, so we don't only focus on your company. We're really dedicated to the entrepreneur through the life cycle of the company, as well as the life cycle of their entrepreneurial career. So we've got entrepreneurs that come back to us with new companies that have successful exits and come back the next 3 years later with another company. We have companies that come back through our program once they pivot. And we have companies that raise a Series A with us, a Series B with us. We also have companies that, entrepreneurs that exit and also come back and invest in our companies once they become investors. So it's a really big family, and we love that. We have 2 main sectors is our focus, life sciences and digital media. We run dual tracks of accelerators, and we pick about 10 to 12 companies in both those sectors each year. We take companies at various stages. I think this is a big one. We're not so concerned about whether you're raising an angel round or a Series A or Series B. We really find what your needs are and try to plug them. And so we're able, last year or this year in our class, we had companies that were in an angel round and a company raising a Series D round. So it's not the sector that we're concerned about, which I think makes us different. I think you need new batteries in this thing. There we go. We're curators. We're really fanatical about making sure the right people are involved. So if you come to us as a company and we pick you for our program, we want to make sure you have the advisors that can help you with your needs. And if we don't have that in our network, we'll go out and find it for you. We're virtual, so we don't make you move. We look all over the U.S. We're in 38 states and 6 continents. And next year, we're going to Chile and Australia. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. And we also do some programs here in DC called the Dolphin Tank. So if you're not yet ready for an accelerator program or to be involved with us in that way, this is an opportunity to pitch your idea and not get torn to shreds. So we like that too. If you have any questions, you should contact us. We love to talk to entrepreneurs, and I'm glad to be here.
Right on time. Okay. Next fishbowl. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then...
Sure. I thought this was a panel, so I don't have a pitch. But we may be hearing from our trademark attorney that dolphin tank thing looks awfully fishy. Tell something about... Okay, so my name is Bud Rosenthal. I work at AOL. I run all our paid services. Been here about 2 years in the DC area. Before that, I was in the Bay Area for 20 years. Spent a bunch of time at bigger companies like Yahoo and Real Networks. Did about half a dozen startups. Actually, Alan Morgan, when he was at Mayfield, was on my board for one of my startups. Funny, small world. So Fishbowl is a little different. We're not really an accelerator in that we don't have a prescribed program that's X number of months with a certain curricula. It's kind of a little odd. We really are offering free space, no rent, no equity, no warrants. And it's really for AOL. It's a cultural ROI. AOL is decidedly a turnaround, and part of that turnaround is absolutely cultural. And so if you think about what we need and what a lot of the startups, right now we have about 9, we have 3 more that are onboarding. We're going to bring on probably another 10. They are almost exclusively working on cutting-edge technology, cutting-edge business paradigms, and things that, frankly, are not core to our DNA. So if you think about mobile, if you think about virtual currency, if you think about gamification, sorry, those are things that are not part of our DNA, and they damn well better be. And so by virtue of having these companies kind of reside with us, we actually keep our fingers on the pulse of some cutting-edge trends. It's also good for some of our employees. So we have employees that are phenomenal engineers, for instance, that work on platforms that frankly, are 200 years old. And we need them to, and these make billions of dollars, but they're really, really old technology. So the ability for our employees to sit with some of these startups and work on some new platforms is a great thing for our employees. And frankly, in terms of what we give back, other than free rent and free food and everything, we have done a bunch of interesting things. We aspire to do some of the cool things that I think a lot of these accelerators do. Frankly, we're going to partner with a bunch of them because we don't see ourselves remotely competitive, aside from the fact that we're in Dulles. We have sat down with almost all our companies, and they've said, some of which are here, and said, God, I'd love to talk to a patent attorney. Boom, we'll set you up with our patent attorney. A mobile design UI expert. We've had our head of BD sit down with a bunch of companies and say, if you're going to go do an operating deal with a Yahoo, an MSN, a Fox, here are the 5 ways. They're probably going to try and hose you over in a term sheet. So keep in mind. So we're not trying to sit there and explain liquidation preferences to people. There's a bunch of us who've raised a lot of money in the venture world that can talk about that, but we're not the best people to do that. There's a million other places to do that and educate people on that. So we're trying to play to our strengths and something we can bring uniquely to the startups that call themselves Fish. And that's really it.
Thank you very much. So next, Elana Fine from the Dingman Center. Tell us a little about yourself and the Dingman Center before you
Okay.
pitch.
Hi, everyone. Most importantly, I need to make sure that everyone in the room knows that Des Wells has been approved to play for Maryland basketball team this year, so we're going to be back in the top 25. Everyone buy their tickets.
Playing Kentucky tomorrow night.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, I'm the managing director of the Dingman Center for Entrepreneurship at University of Maryland, but actually here to represent University of Maryland as a whole, and really, along with John Casey, the collaborations between all the local universities. I think what is really important for everyone here to know and realize, if you don't already, just the vast amount of resources and activities that are going on within the universities in this region. And I think that's really important for everyone in the room for a number of reasons. First of all, we are training and growing entrepreneurs. I'll talk a little bit about our version of an accelerator incubator in a couple minutes, but it's really important for you to understand the amount of enthusiasm and passion that we are seeing in the students around this region. So when Michael was talking about kind of what's been going on in the past couple years in the DC region and events like DCWEEK, we're seeing that on the campuses as well. In fact, President Lowe of the University of Maryland has made innovation and entrepreneurship one of the top real tenets of his administration. So that's only going to mean more resources and more attention to the students at University of Maryland, and I think will I think catalyze a lot of things around the region. So one, let's just think about the students and the passion and the ideas that are coming out of the University of Maryland. Also, talent. We get a lot of requests for talent from the business school, from the engineering school, computer science. We have so many smart students. In fact, we're having a startup career fair tomorrow. If any of you guys are looking for talent, there's probably still time to sign up. We very much see our role, particularly at the Dingman Center, as being a connection between all of you and all the talented students that you're looking to recruit. I'd say the third thing it's important for you to realize is the amount of technology that is within the University of Maryland as well as the other universities in the area. For those of you who are looking for technology, you want to start a business and looking for the technology, we are very focused on our technology commercialization and just, we have over $500 million in sponsored research, and we're going to see a lot more along the lines of those technologies coming out of the university. We are really aspiring for the universities to be playing the type of role that Stanford plays in Silicon Valley. I think that we're close to that. We're not totally there yet. We're going to have our own flavor of it, but I think it's important for you all to know how much is going on at the University of Maryland. Just to give an example of something that we're doing and collaborating with the engineering school on and hoping to collaborate with a lot of the schools around campus, is something called Innovation Fridays. So if you think about how Google spends 20% of their time employees thinking about something new, innovative outside of their job requirements, we are encouraging students across the campus to think on Fridays to be innovative. We're combining a lot of our programs where students can come pitch ideas. We already have a program called Pitch Dingman. A lot of you may know about that, but this is a way for cross-campus for us to say, hey, you have an idea. We are going to have entrepreneurs and residents and other members of the business community set up across campus. Come, tell us your ideas, and we'll give you feedback, and we'll help you with that. So that's kind of, no other campus does anything really like this on this kind of scope. So we're really excited to be launching that. And then one of the things that this is really a pipeline for is our Entrepreneur Academy. For any of you are Maryland alums, how many Terps do we have out there? Yeah, we love our turtles. So this is just our way of really capturing all the enthusiasm of the students. And our goal is to build entrepreneurs. We don't really care what the business is, whether it's high tech, services, et cetera. We really want these students to attempt entrepreneurship while they're in school and be much more likely to go try it after they graduate or even later in life. So we're working with these students as they have ideas and to really work them through help them through the venture creation process. And we're always looking for successful entrepreneurs or even not successful entrepreneurs to be mentors and advisors for these companies as well. So if you enjoy working with students, we're always looking for help. The last thing I want to announce to all of you is also that we are, for any of you who are familiar with our Cupid's Cup business competition, which is our business competition, not a business playing competition, but that is sponsored by Kevin Plank from Under Armour, who is a student entrepreneur himself. We have just launched that to a national competition, which means any current student who running a business or anyone who's an alum less than 5 years who started their business while they were in school is eligible for the competition. Applications are being accepted between now and February 1st. So a lot of exciting things going on. The one last thing I want to point out is that for many of you know me from the Dingman Center Angels as well. We see the Dingman Center as a connection, like I said, between the business community. So if you're raising capital, definitely let us know. We're also going to be having our internship program this summer where we match MBA students funding to work at startups. So lots going on. If you have questions on any of those things, let me know. But just want you to see Maryland as a very important part of this ecosystem that we're all building.
Great
Thank you.
job coming on the time. Thank you, Elana. John. So last, but actually in when he sent me an introduction, he said last and least. But as another cranky old, although he's not cranky, as another old white guy, from one old white guy to another.
Thank you.
Welcome, John.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. So Elena covered a lot of the stuff about how universities can be helpful to entrepreneurs, and I'm not going to say a thing about a Mason program. But what I am going to talk about is a few quick tips on how to leverage any of the local universities or your alma mater, even if it's out of the area. So first off, it is the talent war right now. So first startup I did back in the 80s, I was a student at GW, and I found two technical geniuses there, and we started a little software development firm. First spin-out company I worked for came out of GW as well, and that was a faculty member, my faculty advisor, who recruited me as his first suit and tie type employee, and we raised venture capital back in the mid-'80s, which was unheard of back then. So all my experience was, gee, there's a lot to leverage at local universities, and I encourage everybody to really think deeply about the people and the talent that you could use through those informal networks. Jonathan mentioned Paul Singh, who happens to be an illustrious alumni of Mason and involved with 500 Startups. So he was in Silicon Valley for, I guess, a couple of years, and he wanted to reconnect to the tech community in DC. So he called around a little bit in Northern Virginia and said, and because he was an alumnus, he leveraged our network, started coming to some things, pitched one of his earlier startups to some angels involved with Mason. So definitely the access to brilliant researchers, PhDs that might be good advisors, is definitely something you want to take advantage of. The next thing is the raw intellectual property at universities. There's a lot of crap in the cupboards at every tech transfer office out there, but there's some good gray market intellectual property usually tied to some really gung-ho, brilliant grad student. So if you are a serial entrepreneur looking to do the next big thing, but you don't actually have a starting point of core IP, you can partner up with somebody who's doing research at a university, maybe making a couple million or bringing in a couple million of grant dollars, and build an enterprise around that instead of having to come up with the next big idea yourself. So tap into the knowledge. And then the third, and these are overlapping circles in a Venn diagram because people, knowledge, and networks all kind of coalesce. But there are angels that hang out around university environments that you're never going to see at an event like this because it's family money. It's not what you would call smart money, but they are people that like to hang out with universities. Maybe they've made $1 million donations to the university, and they like working with the programs because they think that the programs increase the likelihood that their investments will do well. Between you and me, I'm not so sure that's true, but we do our best to help plug those folks into opportunities that are interested in. There's a big interest in cybersecurity at Mason, so the other part of the network there is like we had a former CIA director come in and give some talks. You know, if you're a startup founder, you're trying to get at a former CIA director on your own, that's kind of tough. But if you are attending the event at the university and you happen to run into that person in that kind of an intimate environment, you can leverage the network in that way. So I'm really proud to be part of this, what we call the DMV partnership, the universities in the district, Maryland and Virginia, trying to figure out ways to help our fellow entrepreneur types leverage these resources. I have the fun of meeting with Elana and her colleagues, Dean Chang and Craig Dye from University of Maryland System, and Jim Chung from the Office of Entrepreneurship at GW. Jeff Reed, Georgetown, has been there. We're meeting for breakfast to try and plot strategy for figuring out ways that we can work on things like the Student Startup Expo and other initiatives. So your task is to go plug into some university that you have some connection to or some affiliation with. And if you went to school in Sweden, plug into a university that's got a sister city in Sweden. Just leverage that. And take advantage of the Turtle and the other programs. Follow college basketball. I'm going to end with a sad note. Those of you who follow the Mason Patriots teams, 2 of our players are not allowed to play the first couple of games. Really sad news for season ticket holders like myself. But the parting shot is, if you have ideas for how the DMV partnership of universities can do other initiatives along the lines of the Startup Expo to connect students to startups, connect to any of the people whose names I mentioned from those programs, or send me a DM to @Venture Mentors.
Thank you, John. So what I'm going to ask is everybody, in the order that you were on stage, come on up and stand that way, because there's a reason for the order. So you're at the end.
Flip my logo to a more generic one.
No, we want to advertise. Yeah. Well, we definitely don't want to do that. I'm not talking about Barrientos. So first thing I'd like to do is ask that we don't have enough seats. Yeah. So stand, guys. Unless you're an old cranky old guy, then you get a seat. So the order that we used was the mercenaries, okay, the missionary, the corporate good, and then the public sector. Okay. So there was some logic to the order. I'm going to take a little poll, and then we're going to open it up for questions. But out of the folks here, who gives cash for equity? Okay, so the mercenaries, okay? And I assume all your money's the same color, and it's fungible, and $1's $1, right? So who gives mentoring, period? Mentoring? Okay, how about mentoring for equity? No. You guys give mentoring for, is that what separates your dollar versus your dollar versus your dollar?
We absolutely do not give mentoring for equity. Mentoring is part of our accelerator program, and it's for our portfolio companies.
But if I take your dollar, is it better than a uninvolved dollar?
I would say so.
Yes?
But it's a bonus, not mercenary.
You can't separate the two. It's part of the program. I mean, we We don't allow equity for mentoring. I mean, it's all encompassing.
Okay, same, I assume. So my point would be, I'm going to put these guys on the spot that they normally put you guys in. I'm going to ask you to pitch why your dollar that comes bundled with mentoring is better than anybody else's dollar.
How much time do we have?
You have 30 seconds.
Social Tables, Venga, Hinge, Co-Founders Lab, Lemur, Next Game, Troop Swap. These are companies in our portfolio. Join, apply at Fortify's AngelList profile to be part of our accelerator, and you'll hopefully feel like one of those companies 6 months later.
Very good.
I think for what we do, consumer internet, I mean, there's no better resource for breaking in, getting traction, getting funding, getting access to the people that can help your company succeed. We're very laser focused. We take a few companies, we take 4 or 5 companies at a time, and we put a ton into those companies. One of our partners runs XL Marketing, which is a huge online customer acquisition company, and we leverage those resources. So we bring in a ton of resources that can get traction and that can get funding for specifically consumer internet.
Well, with respect to Acceleprise, I'll give you a couple of concrete examples. Every company that comes in gets $25,000 of deferred legal support from Goodwin Procter. Each company gets up to $60,000 in free software from Microsoft. So there's some concrete things that actually help your dollar go a little bit further, and the mentors are extraordinary. You've got, people with legal expertise, small startup expertise, founders of a bunch of founders of public companies. So, a nice network like lots of the others.
Okay, so now we pass it down to Katie.
Hello.
Katie, so for your group, where mentoring is the main thing, mentoring, connections, education, could you and you actually told us some of your successes. How many companies have gone through the program in the 12 years?
509.
509. How many failed?
18%.
It's a pretty low rate, huh? Good.
But they're not failures.
They're learning experience. How many had
Exactly.
learning experiences?
18%.
Okay.
Don't call them failures.
I'm a abject failure. So if you talked about, what are your 3 best successes, and how do you think you guys contributed to that?
Well, you saw some of our kind of logos up there for our IPOs. Zipcar is one that's really recognizable. When they came to us, they were ready to scale. So be in DC, be all over the nation, needed equity, needed someone who had done something, scaled a business, not similar, but had experience in that, and we were able to make those game-changing connections. One thing that's kind of different about us, like I said, is that we're a little bit, we take companies that are a little bit further along, so we're not in competition with these accelerator programs. We call ourselves a post-accelerator, so it's kind of an add-on, when you're ready to take that next step. Another success story that I'll tell you about is a woman named Lauren Flanagan, and I mentioned this a little bit. This is kind of how we mark our success. She presented in the very first class in 2000. She had a successful exit. She became a mentor, then she joined our board. Then she started 2 venture funds that fund women-led businesses in the Midwest, and now she has funded, I think, 20 springboard companies, and she sends us her companies, and we send her our companies, and those are the kinds of relationships that we have in our network. So that's what I would call a success.
Okay, thank you. So, Bud, talk to me about, now this is a little bit different because it's corporate. What's in it for AOL?
I think I touched on some of it, honestly. There's really 2 pieces. One is very specifically for us selfishly, it's cultural ROI. Really hard to define, we don't pretend it's easy. And the reality is for our existing employees, they get to spend a lot of time with these companies. And as I said, some of these guys, their day in and day job that we need them to work super, super hard at is not on the most cutting edge platforms, et cetera. So for them, it's a great skill building thing. And in a lot of cases, particularly when you think about not just engineering, but engineering management, they really can serve as great mentors to some of the companies. And then frankly, if you take that other side, AOL, frankly, it feels like, and I'm relatively new, but it feels like it's been divorced from the DC tech scene. And as one of the bigger companies around here, it's about time we get more involved. And I think as part of the turnaround, it's important that we actually get more engaged with DC.
Okay, one more follow-up question. If when you look at these companies, do you look at them and say, is this a good fit? Is this something we'd like to buy?
Not necessarily. So we have a venture arm, and we don't guarantee anything, but we can obviously make an investment. I would actually flip that and say one of the things that we're really different as, we're actually evaluating companies that are very different. We're not looking at something and saying, wow, that could have a great venture return. There are a couple, I obviously won't say names, but there are a couple of the companies that you look at and you say, wow, going after a massively big, super high beta problem, frankly, in a couple spaces, including spaces that I've been in, it's a bear to raise VC money. But we don't take equity, so we don't care. If they're working on cutting-edge technology, they're really smart men and women, we don't care if there's a great venture return. So we've actually, we look at it a little differently. We have 3 companies in the local space. We have a big strategic initiative in local called Patch, pretty controversial, but either way, we're in it, so we're trying to be successful. We have 3 of our companies, Critic Mania, Urgently, and Village Eyes that are in the space. So, it doesn't have to be an operational fit with us, but if it can, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Elana.
Uh-oh.
So how many companies have gone through the Dingman program or MTech?
I think I would say probably over 1,000 ideas. I think we look at things a little bit as, companies as a little bit narrow for us to define. We talk to over 200 students a year that come in with their ideas. Same as MTech and the engineering school. They have a lot of faculty and research who come in with their technologies on a weekly basis to say, is this have some commercial viability? So as far as from the Dingman Center Angels, we screen 200 local companies a year. We invested in 13 in our last academic year. So those are a little bit easier metrics to define from the regional companies.
Do you have any companies that you'd want to point to as a particular success?
I think one that a lot of people don't hear about a lot is Social Growth Technologies, which is a company that came through the Dingman Center, went through our programs, and won Cupid's Cup, and is now in the virtual currency space. And you don't hear a lot about them, but they are. You will more and more, but they're kind of in the background. But significant revenue traction, significant employee and bottom line growth. But I think they're a good example of how they use all the resources, not just as far as winning prize money, but also advisory resources as well.
Okay, thank you. So John,
Yes.
tell us about what's in it. What's in it for George Mason?
Well, you may have heard this story, but the first time I set foot on Mason's campus was for an angel investor conference in '94, and the president, Alan Merton, who since stepped down, talked about how universities ought to drive regional economic development. I'm like, oh, here's a university president who kind of gets it, and I got excited about that and started volunteering right then and there. So our key metric and entrepreneurship support programs are all over the university. So I don't pretend to know everybody's numbers, but the key metric of everything in the Mason Enterprise Center umbrella, if you will, is just job creation. We try not to worry about too many other numbers, but we focus on venture track companies because we think after they raise an initial round, they're most likely to create jobs. And my favorite story is one that shows the university structure that I was alluding to, which was this guy who I knew back when he was CTO of Reliable Software named Anoop Ghosh. I met him at NBTC. 10 years pass and we run into each other. He's on the faculty at Mason, research faculty, as am I. And between those visits, he'd been at DARPA, gotten millions of dollars of research for a cybersecurity company. I ran a little team of master students, 6 or 8 teams, some of them whom ran $500 million programs at BAE and elsewhere. They shadowed him for a year. He created this spin-out company from Mason, raised money from Growtech and New Atlantic Venture Partners, and it's now called Invincia. And he's been able to recruit some brilliant Mason students to work for him, and I think of him as one of our success stories we'd like to create more of.
One thing I forgot to ask Elana, I'm going to come back to. Do you care about geography?
No, actually, and maybe that's because of my roots where I've done stuff with Hopkins, and I was a mentor at the TAP incubator at Maryland. So we we are helping companies from all over the region where we are supposedly focused is where Mason has a campus. So we have one in Fairfax, Arlington, and Prince William, and Manassas, and we also have a Mason Enterprise Center in Leesburg. So yeah, there's a focus, but we do a lot with international, and it's kind of like through the social network where we draw those lines.
Okay. Elana?
No, not at all. I mean, I think actually one of the things I'd say we need to do a better job is actually doing more things outside of the DC metro region and other parts of, probably deeper in Maryland, and I don't know if we'll go deeper into Virginia, but other places have that covered. But yeah, we don't, from our Angel Network, we're really looking at the Mid-Atlantic in general.
Okay, and I want to come back to the mercenaries for a minute with a quick question, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience. So, Paul, you've only had one cohort so far. It's a new accelerator, is that correct?
That's right.
So how many people in that cohort?
There are six in the first class.
And they will graduate?
I think they graduate, I think it's next week.
How many have gone public so far?
Not yet. They're close.
Okay. Michael.
So, same question.
Same question.
4 in the first group, and we don't do it. We do it a little differently. We don't do it on classes. We do it as a rolling basis. We do that because we want to be opportunistic, and when we meet a startup, we want to be able to start working with them right away. 2 of the 4 have raised additional money, 2 have not, and have not started looking yet. We're getting their decks in order now.
Okay, Paul told us what their deal terms were. Do you guys have standard deal terms, or are they variable? So what, do you care sharing them?
On our website, $25,000 investment, 6% of the company.
Okay, good.
Common shares, just like the founder.
Okay, Jonathan.
So we've had one class started in January. We'll have 2 next year, and they'll be 6 months. Our first class, Investor Day, which is our version of Demo Day, we had just under $5 million raised into 9 companies. These are companies that we've put somewhere between 25 and 100K in. We have the right to decide when we put more than the original 25. And our next batch starts, like I said earlier, we're taking applications now. It will start in January and possibly in a new location in the district.
And the deal term, so it's $25,000, and for how much equity?
Well, it varies, and we'll announce soon. There'll be 3 different levels based on where the company is. We don't think that it's one size fits all. So.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to open it up to the audience. Nope. I've got one question from the audience, so make it a good one.
There are 4 mercenaries on stage, by the way. He's one of them.
Question? Oh, come on, don't leave it up to me.
Katie, you talked about you'll take anybody anytime, but for the rest of you, is there a key to when is a good time to apply? Early, later, when you're ready to scale? What is the rules of thumb?
If you're interested, go ahead and apply. I think anytime is good to get it in.
So we want a working prototype. So we want the machine to sort of be just coming online. We don't like to spend the time that we're working with the startup on the development cycle. We are reiterating, of course, but we want to be able to take it to market, start to get beta users, traction. So that's kind of our litmus test.
So ditto and beyond, we like to see, we have some companies that are applying now that have traction and revenue, and that's great because they'll help other companies in the next class who are kind of a couple months or a few months or 6 months behind them. So for us it varies, but if you've got an idea and you're a team that's done it before, we'll talk to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. A big hand for the Accelerator Program people. And you guys going to be around so people can grab you and hit you up and ask for money? Okay, good. Thank you very much.